Welcome to Tech Consult Limited. Today we want to talk about Metalwork hand tools 2. Previously we've discussed in Metalwork hand tool 1 that metal can be beaten into shapes and can be used to form different shapes. Hence the need for the use of these tools to work on metals to develop any shape that we want to develop or fabricate from metals, because we are not going to use our bare hands to actually forge metals. We are going to need tools, requisite tools, for this purpose. But we are not considering other tools like the machine tools. We are considering the tools that we handle in our hands, and that's why they are called metalwork hand tools. We handle it in our hands, right? For example, we handle hammer now. I hope you understand. Yeah, we handle hammer in our hands. We handle scriber in our hands. Okay, so they are called hand tools. All right, we want to actually continue from where we stopped. By the end of this class, you should be able to identify and state the uses of metal hand tools. It's important when you see a hand tool, you should be able to identify what this hand tool is. If you identify it, what is it used for? Okay, so please, let's continue to talk. Now, like I said previously in Metalwork hand tools 1, that these tools are grouped according to what they are used for. We have discussed the measuring tools, the marking out tools. We have discussed those ones, okay? We want to look at today the cutting tools. From their names, you can tell what they are used for. So cutting tools are those tools that are those devices that we use for chiseling, we use for filing, we use for scraping, we use for sawing, metals, or used for cutting metals. It's not only cutting that we do on metals, right? We can, we can shape a metal by filing it. We can scrap a metal, we can chisel it to get it to the right shape that we need it to get to. Okay, so let's continue. Now, these cutting tools include hacksaw. A hacksaw is a metal work hand tool. It is not a woodwork hand tool. I need you to take this into consideration. So when somebody talk about hacksaw where you are, it's not a woodwork hand tool. So the hacksaw basically is used for cutting metal in the workshop. Usually metals in the form of rods. You cannot use hacksaw to actually cut sheets of metal. I've told you already that we'll use the snipes for such purposes. We cannot use hacksaw for cutting metal sheets. The snipes I'm talking about is like a scissors, but not scissors, so to say. It has that structure of a scissors, right? But it has that sharp blade. Can be used to cut the metal sheets. So we have different parts of the hacksaw. It's important you take into consideration, because for your basic examinations, you ask to tell what they are for. Now we have this we call the wing nut. The wing nut here, actually, the use of the wing nut is to tension the metal blade, the blade, the hacksaw blade, because you have to from time to time change the blade. Let's say when it's no longer sharp or the teeth are worn out, you can change it. So the wing nut here, what it does here is to put this blade under tension so that you can actually work with it properly. Then we have the frame. Of course, we have these two types of the hacksaw. This one is called the pestle hacksaw, while this one is called the straight hacksaw frame, just depending on the frame, how it looks. This is the handle. Of course, this is the handle. It looks like a pestle. Okay. Now, we also have the wing nut here. This is the wing nut here. We have the blade. This is the blade. We also have this variable screw depending on what you want. Then this is also adjustable. The frame is also adjustable depending on the length of the blade that is available in the market. You can adjust this for that purpose. Okay, now we also have another, we have types of hacksaw. We have a type of hacksaw that we call the adjustable hacksaw, the tubular hacksaw, and the junior hacksaw, right? Now, the junior hacksaw here, basically, we'll use it for cutting, cutting sheets of metal, just not maybe a wider one because of the way it is. What we cannot use the hacksaw to use, the adjustable hacksaw actually to do, we cannot use it to cut sheets of metal, but this one can be used to cut sheets of metal. Now, the tubular hacksaw also, just as the name implies, can also be used for cutting rods. For cutting rods, if you are not careful, you won't be able to differentiate between a tubular hacksaw and actually the adjustable hacksaw. Okay. Now, we also have another cutting tool we call files. You know, the file basically is actually used for finishing jobs. Let's say you want to smoothen some surfaces of the metal, you can use file. Or maybe you want to, you know, file certain places, certain metal into its place so that you can form the shape you actually want to form, right? We'll use file for such purpose. Okay, now let's say you have also maybe cut the metal, or maybe you have used chisel or hacksaw on the metal and you want that place to actually be smoothened or be in a shape that you want it. You can use file on such purpose, on such surfaces of the metal. Okay, so there are different parts we have in a file, and we have different types of files and what they are used for. For example, we have a file. Of course, this is a typical example of a flat file. We call this the face of the file. This is the tank of the file. This is the heel of the file. This tank, let's say we want to put this file in a wooden handle so that we can easily, you know, work with it. We put the tank inside the wooden handle. Then we have this we call the safe edge. The safe edge of the file. So we also have here to this point of the file. When you want to actually work with the file, there are certain techniques that you need to actually acquire. You don't just use the file, especially when you're using it to sharpen maybe your cutlass, or you want to use it for other purposes. There are certain things you should not do, and there are certain things you should not do, because this is very sharpened. We have them in different grades depending on what we want. All right, so if it slips and maybe you are not careful, your hand enters, it can cause serious injury on your hand. So when working with files, please take the requisite precautions you need to take. We can classify files based on their length. We can classify files based on their cross sections, right? Depending on the way it is. We can classify them based on their shape, what they look like. Do they look like, are they round in their shape? Then we call them round files. Are they flat? We call them flat files. You see that? Do they have a triangular cutting edge? We say it's a triangular file. So we can classify file based on the shape. We can also classify them based on their grades. We have different grades of file. We have the grade of file we call the bastard grade. You know, we're going to look at it. The name actually is funny. All right. We also can classify file based on the area of cut, and the cutting teeth of the file. Now, these are different grades of file that we have and what they are used for. We have the coarse grade. Okay, we use this coarse grade to actually cut for heavy cuts in metals. We need heavy cuts in metal. We'll use the coarse grade of the file. The bastard grade is used for medium cuts, where you don't need, where the metal is not that heavy, it doesn't need a medium cut on it. But we also have the second cut grade. All right, this second cut is actually used for light cuts. Then we also have the smooth cut grade of the file. So if you are done, you use this for finishing to ensure that the part you have worked on is actually smooth and has the kind of finish that you want it to be. So we need that smooth grade of file for finishing cuts on the metal workpiece that we've worked on. Okay, there are different types of files. This one is actually based on their shape. We have a file called the flat file. The flat file here can be used to, form a flat surface on a material. We have the round file. There. We have the half round file. We also have the triangular file. The triangular file, you see there, can be used to form a dovetail, in a workpiece. We also have the knife edge file. We have the square file. Just as the name implies, we have the square file. Okay, if the edge here looks more like a square, you see that? It looks like more of a square. Okay, now we have another cutting tool we call the chisel. The chisel here basically is actually used for, it's a cutting tool, just like I said, made from a high carbon steel. We use them for shaping metal, all right? And by other means that we can carry that out. For example, we have to scrape some parts of the metal that is not entering. We can chisel the metal out. Or let's say when you cut a metal and some part refuse to cut out, you can chisel it out. All right? You can chisel out some part of the metal, then it enters to what you want to actually fabricate. We have different types of chisel. We have the flat nose chisel, the flat chisel. We have the cross-cut chisel. We also have another chisel we call the round nose chisel and the diamond chisel. This is just their names. They are just as a result of the way they look like and the kind of work they can do. Now, we have the flat chisel here, just as you've seen it. It's actually used for leveling. It's also used for removing rough surfaces. We can use the flat chisel for such purpose. Okay, we can use it to remove, rough surfaces from the metal woodwork, from the metal work that we're working on. Now, also the diamond nose chisel here is used for chiseling mainly inside corners where, conventionally other chisels cannot actually get to. We can use the diamond nose chisel for such purpose. Maybe where your flat chisel cannot enter. We also have the cross-cut chisel. The cross-cut chisel here is actually used for making narrow grooves. When I say grooves, you understand what I mean by grooves. A kind of an opening in a wheel. All right? It's called a groove. We can also use them to make key slots in a shaft. That's what we use this cross-cut chisel for. Now, we have the round nose chisel. The round nose chisel here is used for making oil grooves in shafts. We use this chisel for making oil grooves in shafts. So where you have different grooves and where you need the oil, in some of the things we work, metal work, we can have this chisel used for such purpose. Now we also have scrapers. Scraper, the name will tell you what it is used for. We use scrapers actually for removing imperfections from metal surfaces that have been worked on previously. Let's say after, maybe you are working on gate, for example. Maybe you are working on a metallic box, for example, a metallic safe, and there are certain areas that we have pieces of metals that are not, properly taken care of. You can use the scraper to actually scrape out the metal. We have different types of scrapers. We have the flat scraper. We also have the triangular scraper. The one you're seeing on the screen here is a triangular scraper. We have the half round scraper. They are used for the same purpose, depending on the nature of the place you wish to scrape. In some places the surfaces are not flattened, you may not be able to use flat scraper for such place, but you can use a triangular scraper to enter into grooves, to enter into holes, to remove certain imperfections in these areas. We also have other metal work hand tools. We classify them as driving tools because basically they are used for hammering, they are used for punching, they're also used for screw driving in metal work. So these driving tools, like we said, they are used for these purposes, for hammering. When we mean hammering in metals, you understand what we're talking about, to actually make certain indentations on metals, or maybe to strengthen your metal that you wish to work on. Okay, now the hammer, for example, we have different types of hammer. We have the kind of hammer we call the ball pen hammer. We have the kind of hammer we call the cross pen hammer. We have the kind of hammer that we call the straight pen hammer. These are the three types of hammer. We also have another special type of hammer that we call the mallets, right, that are used for metal work. But for now, we will talk about the ball pen hammer, the cross pen hammer here, and the straight pen hammer. I already told you initially in my previous video that this cross-cut hammer can as well be called the Warrington hammer. Just as you have it here, we can use this part of the hammer for hammering purposes in the metal work that we are working on, right? While you can use the cross pen hammer actually to make some grooves or some cuts in the metal work piece that you wish to work on. Now, of course, we also have punches. We have punches as driving tools. Don't forget, we've mentioned punches too as marking out tools. I told you in that video that the punches used as marking out tools are the punches we call the dot punch and the center punch. But other punches are actually used for this purpose. They can be used as driving tools. Now, punches basically, they are used for punching holes in metals. They can also be used for removing or driving out rivets or tapered pins or dowel from holes. Rivets, like we are talking about here, they are just mechanical fasteners. So in a point, maybe you have used rivets to fasten two metals and you wish to remove it. Let's say it is in a hole or where maybe ordinarily your hand will not get to. So you need maybe a punch like the pin punch to get to that place and remove the rivet from there. Okay? Now, we have here three types of punches that are used as driving tools, other than the ones I told you that are used as marking out tools. Please, I don't want you to confuse them. These punches are round punch, they are the pin punch, and they are the square punch. The pin punch here, you can see what the worker is doing on this metal workpiece. You can use this to remove bolts. Maybe you have a tapered bolt on your woodwork, on your metal work, or maybe you are trying to loosen something and something breaks. You can use the punch to drive it out of that place with the requisite hammer on it. Okay? You drive it out. Then we have the square punch. We also have the round punch. Let's say you're also working on a metal work and you have maybe a rivet gets stuck in the process, and that place is where the round punch can get to. You can use it for such purpose and remove, you know, the tapered metals in those places. Okay, now we also have another driving tool we call the screwdriver. You know that we can also use screws to fasten metals. So, but for us to do that, we need screwdrivers to actually drive in these screws into the metal. So screwdrivers basically are used for driving nails or driving screws into the metal. Let's say you want to fasten to metal. Oftentimes, panel beaters make use of the screws a lot. Okay? Now, we have these screwdrivers. We have different types of screwdrivers. We have a type of screwdriver we call the ratchet screwdriver. Okay? We have a kind of screwdriver we call the flat screwdriver, depending on the head of the screwdriver. We have a type of screwdriver we call the star screwdriver. Okay? The star screwdriver there, depending on the head of the screw. If the head of the screw is star, then you use your star screwdriver to actually drive it in or drive it out, depending on what you want for the work you are doing. If you want to drive out the screw, you can use a screwdriver for such purpose. If you want to drive it in, we have the ratchet screwdrivers here for different heads of the screw, depending on what you want. Okay. We also have other tools that we need or that we use in metal work, but these are hand tools. Now, we call them holding tools. Holding tools. See the way they sound. I told you from their name, you can tell what they do. Now, these holding tools are the devices in the workshop that will help us, that helps us to hold or secure metal pieces during cutting or drilling or shaping operations, welding or filing of the metal. Will you hold the metal in your lap when you are filing it? The answer is no. So you have to actually use these holding devices to hold them on the metal workbench to actually perform your operations you want to perform on the metal workpiece. So these holding tools, they are vices, they are clamps. So we are going to look at them, different types of vices and what exactly we use vices for. This is a typical vice. You may have seen this maybe when you are walking along your street and you see a welder's shop. This is what you must see in every welder shop. There's no welder that does not have a vice. In short, no vice, no fabrication. All right? This is very, very important because you want to cut the workpiece, you have to use the vice to hold it firmly so that you can cut the metal. Let's say you are using a hacksaw, for example. You need the vice to do that. All right, vices basically are used for holding rigidly in positions. All right? Holding objects rigidly in positions so that the operations we wish to carry out on the object can be carried out successfully and without much stress. The vice has different parts. Some parts are movable, while some parts are actually fixed. The vice has two jaws. All right, when you turn the spindle using this screw, all right, the spindle can move like this, can slide like this, can slide this way depending on what you want. Let's say you want to hold a workpiece, you need to just turn it in the clockwise direction. Once that is done, this slide or spindle moves in this direction. Then the jaws, you know, they will actually hold the workpiece that you wish to work on, and then you do what you want to do. This other jaw here is stationary. We have the base of the vice where you can actually fix it either on the the metal workbench or on a separate, metal stool to be used for such purpose. Now, we have different types of vices. We have different types of vices. We have a vice we call the bench vice, which that one that I've shown you. We have the hand vice. You are seeing it here. We have the hand vice. We have the machine vice. We have the leg vice. This one is fixed maybe at the leg of the workbench, and you use it to hold what you want to hold. So if you are not careful, you will think it does the same function as the clamp, but it's not actually what it does. All right. Then we also have the tool makers vice. We have the combination vice. Okay. We also have the quick release vice. The quick release vice. All of them are used for the purpose of holding a workpiece that we actually want to drill, cut, or maybe shape them. That's what they are used for, depending on the precision of your work. Okay, we also have another holding tool we call the clamps. The clamps here, they are used for holding workpieces for various jobs. Various jobs here include cutting. They also include maybe filing, they include shaping, and other jobs you wish to do. Okay, we also have different types of clamps. And these different types of clamps, they are the G clamp. This is the G clamp. I know you may have seen this. This is the G clamp. This is the two makers clamp. And then pliers. This may be your first time you may know that plier is actually a clamp. Plier is a clamp. All right. You can use it to hold your work. Let's say you want to. You can see in many fabrication sites. Maybe the welder also wants to, join two pieces of metals together. You can use the metal to hold it. Yes, and then do your work with ease. All right. So we have the G clamp here, just like I like to show you different parts of these tools so that you can easily identify them when you see them. All right, this is the frame of the G clamp. This is the movable jaw of the clamp, because when you turn the handle, all right, it can move forward and backward depending on the direction of the rotation of the collar. We have the screw, of course. A screw. Then this is a movable jaw, this is a fixed jaw. So the G clamp basically is used, you clamp the material on a bench, and then anything you want to now hold, you can actually hold them together. You can see the tool makers clamp there in use. You can see the way it's being used for holding materials that we wish to work on. Okay, we want to actually talk about pliers. Pliers are actually general purpose holding tools. We use pliers for different purposes, and we have different types of pliers depending on actually what you want to use them for. We have a type of plier that we call a combination plier. We call the long nose plier, which is what you're seeing here. This is a long nose plier. This is a combination plier. We have the round nose plier. See, we have the round nose plier, and we have the flat nose plier. The combination plier is the one that is almost everywhere. Every technologist have this, because you can use it for different purposes. You can use it for cutting. Yes, you can use that one to cut even pieces of metals. Yes, like for example wire. You can use that plier to cut. You can use it as your holding tool too. You can use it to hold. That's why it is called combination plier. That's a combination of different things it can do. Okay, just like I said, that we have different types of pliers. We have the long nose plier, we have the round nose plier, we have the flat nose plier, we have the combination plier. If you watch from the names, you can see it from the way the plier looks. For example, the long nose plier, this is it here. Just as the name implies, the nose of the plier here you're seeing, is long. So this plier is actually used in some places ordinarily that other conventional pliers will not be used. For example, in some awkward places like holes and some grooves. Let's say you wish to hold something in hole. Let's say you are walking, you need to just hold something and maybe weld or maybe tighten or do anything you want to do, and you just need to hold it. The long nose plier will be used in that place. We also have the round nose plier. See, the round nose plier. This plier basically is used for holding workpieces in a hole. It can be used in a hole to hold workpiece that you wish to actually work on. Now we also have the flat nose. Normally the flat nose plier can be used, of course, in surfaces to hold your metal work piece that you actually want to work on. Then we have another type of plier we call the combination plier. In combination plier, it got the name combination plier because the plier is actually a multifunctional plier. It can perform many functions. For example, it can be used to cut even metals. For example, wire. You can use that plier to cut wires. You can use the plier to hold your workpiece. Let's say you want to tighten or do something on the metal workpiece, or maybe you just want to have a grip on what you are working on, or you want to pick out something too. If in some places that the nose can enter, the plier can be used for such purpose. So that's why it is called a combination plier. It can be used for different purposes depending on what you want to use it for. Okay, now I need you to follow me as we actually go to the ExamGuide app to study some questions as regards to what we have discussed now. Okay, the ExamGuide app is the app that I strongly recommend for you to actually use. It's your study guide, kind of. It's an app you need to actually study and practice your questions. If your aim is actually to make good grades in your examination in basic secondary school, I recommend this app for you to use. Okay, so let's go through it and find out questions that will help us to understand what we've discussed properly. Let's look at these questions. It says a bench vise is used for dash jobs: boring, checking, filing, hammering, holding. Answer the question. Okay, I believe you already know that the answer is option E. The bench vise is used for holding jobs. It's a holding tool. I trust you know that already. Okay. So the tool sketched is used for marking straight lines on. You already know that this tool we are talking about here is a scriber. That's why I said take note of the way they look. Take note of the different parts. Take note of what they are used for. It's important we do that. This tool, sketched, is used for what? Is used for marking straight lines on ceramics, on metals, on papers, on veneer, on wood. Of course, you don't try it on paper. It will just tear the paper into pieces. The scriber is actually used for making straight lines on metals. Thank you. Have a great day. Okay.